Hello, this is the Lord's Legion and welcome to a brand new countdown, and in this video we're going to be counting down the top 10 obscure comic book casting choices that actually pulled off. Now what I'm talking about specifically are the casting choices that on paper do not really work as well, but in the final product it actually worked out for the best. Now just because certain actors are on this list, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're bad by any stretch. It's just one of these things that at first glance you cannot really see them within certain roles, but as soon as you see the full performance then you would be amazed to see what they're capable of. And if anything, this is a huge compliment with these actors on this list. And just to clarify, it could be anything within comic book, movies, or even TV series, and both heroes and villains are allowed to be on this list. And lastly, no voice actors because that's a bit of a cheat. So without further ado, let's begin. So kicking off at number 10 we have Dafne Keen as Laura Kinney aka X-23. Now when it comes to casting in pretty much anything, most times out of 10 if you're gonna cast a kid then chances are it's gonna fail. But this certainly wasn't the case when it came down to Dafne Keen. As a matter of fact, she was one of the biggest highlights in Logan. And to be honest, Dafne Keen really pulled off an isolated character. And she was also very convincing whenever she was angry or even sad. And although this version of X-23 is a little different in comparison to the comics in some retrospects, these changes were made for the better. Coming in at number 9 we have Jai Courtney as Captain Boomerang. Now when it comes down to a C-lister like Captain Boomerang, you don't really have much to work with. And when it comes down to quite possibly one of the most bland actors in modern day, it's surprising how well he turned out. Because Captain Boomerang in Suicide Squad was one of the more enjoyable characters in the entire film, being nothing more but a complete lunatic and a douchebag. And again, it's a little shocking because Jai Courtney is a completely bland actor, and with a C-lister like Captain Boomerang, it's quite an achievement to see that Captain Boomerang of all people is Jai Courtney's one of only few decent roles. Although it does kinda help that Jai Courtney was on drugs during majority of the filming. Coming in at number 8 we have Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool. And I know this is quite possibly the most controversial pick on this list, but please hear me out. Now what puts Ryan Reynolds on this list is mainly due to X-Men Origins Wolverine. Although give credit where credit is due, Ryan Reynolds did the best with what little he was given. And he was pretty decent as Wade Wilson before his transformation as that abomination. And so when he was able to reprise his role as Deadpool the second time around, although his heart was in the right place, it was a little tricky to fathom on whether he would make a good Deadpool or not at first glance. Which again, this is all because of Origins Wolverine. But as soon as we finally got to see Deadpool in the flesh, we all know for a fact that Ryan Reynolds isn't just playing Deadpool, but he embodies that role. Coming in at number 7 we have Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. Now this one is quite an interesting one because Mark Ruffalo, as many people know, was not always in the MCU. But in fact Edward Norton was the original Hulk in 2008's The Incredible Hulk film. But due to disagreements, Edward Norton was fired and was ultimately replaced by Mark Ruffalo. Now at first many people were very concerned by this because Edward Norton did such a great job as Bruce Banner in The Incredible Hulk, while Mark Ruffalo, although did make a bunch of movies for many years, he was for the most part under the radar. But by the time the Avengers came around, he did a phenomenal job as Bruce Banner, and in many ways even wiped the floor with Edward Norton, as not only did Mark Ruffalo pull off a more vulnerable Hulk, but he was also capable of adding some more confidence within Bruce Banner. And because of this, he was able to balance out all different sides of Bruce Banner's character. Coming in at number 6 we have Dave Bautista as Drax. Now when it comes down to wrestlers, most times out of 10 their performances come across as a plank of wood. But with a character like Drax, this is right up Dave Bautista's street. Because for starters, he certainly has all the muscles to showcase that fact, and also the fact that Drax the Destroyer is more or less an alien. And because of that, Drax the Destroyer is a bit more literal in comparison to most other characters in the Guardians of the Galaxy films. And plus you could tell that Dave Bautista was having such a blast while playing Drax the Destroyer, as he was able to add in more light to an otherwise tragic character. And despite how they did take some liberties with the character, Dave Bautista did pull off a really great Drax. Coming in at number 5 we have Grant Gustin as Barry Allen the Flash. Now at first glance you would expect Grant Gustin to be some pretty boy who can't act for shit. seeing as how he was mostly known for his role in Glee, but to everyone's surprise he did a phenomenal job as Barry Allen. And although Grant Gustin is often seen as some sort of TV drama star, he was able to put that into good use. And in a way it does humanize his role ever so more. And every time when you see him on screen, he's just so believable. And he's also such a joy to watch. And maybe this is because he's in a TV series, but Grant Gustin really does have a grasp on Barry Allen. And at the end of the day, Grant Gustin was such a huge gamble that actually pulled off. Coming in at number 4, we have Tom Holland as Peter Parker Spider-Man. Now why this is such an obscure pick is mainly because both Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield embody the roles as Peter Parker in their own different ways. And at first glance, it does seem like this young actor has little to no chance in pulling off a great Spider-Man. But what Tom Holland does is that he brings the best from both Spider-Men and essentially make his own. And although his Spider-Man is an amalgamation of both previous Spider-Men, he adds more charm of relatability within his Spider-Man as well. And because of this, many people like myself claim Tom Holland to be the perfect Spider-Man in many regards. Because he has such a great balance, and not only that, he feels so relatable. And plus it does help the fact that he does bounce off of other heroes as well. Coming in at number 3, we have Chris Evans as Steve Rodgers, Captain America. Now why this one is an obscure pick is for a multitude of reasons. For starters, Captain America, to me at least, is one of these characters who's very difficult to cast, mainly because he's kinda dated in many areas. And he's also meant to stand for truth, justice and the American way in a similar form to Superman. Plus Chris Evans also played the Human Torch in 2 very mediocre Fantastic Four films. So at first glance it was very jarring to see Chris Evans portray a character like Captain America. But by the time we actually see Chris Evans in action, we finally understood why he was the perfect Captain America. Because although this version of Captain America was very grounded in many areas, the spirit of what made Captain America great still lived on within that incarnation. And Chris Evans makes a very convincing Captain America, which is a very difficult thing to pull off. Coming in at number 2, we have a tiebreaker between Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne Batman. Now why I have this as a tie is because A, this is pretty much the same role, and B, the story of their casting is very similar to each other. For starters, Batman is a very complicated character, and whoever is about to portray Batman, then they have big shoes to fulfill. And before their careers as Batman, Michael Keaton was mostly known for Beetlejuice, while Ben Affleck was mostly known for, well, Daredevil and other terrible movies. And after they were first announced, both of them got death threats. But as soon as their movies finally came out, they were both praised as 2 of the best live action Batmen who ever lived. And to me, both actors really suit the role because Batman is meant to be mysterious and it should be the person that you least expect under the mask. And finally, for number 1, we have Heath Ledger as the Joker. Now I know you probably seen this coming from a mile away, but really was there any doubt? Because everyone knows before Heath Ledger was the Joker, he was mostly known for Brokeback Mountain. So when he was first announced as the Joker, everyone was scratching their heads. And what's even more interesting was the fact that Heath Ledger at one point before The Dark Knight was actually offered a role within Batman Begins, to which he originally declined. And so after months of preparation and filming, Heath Ledger ultimately became the best live action portrayal of the Joker there ever will be. And Heath Ledger does prove to everyone that sometimes the most obscure casting choices can often be the best, which is very evident when Heath Ledger's Joker is claimed to be one of the best movie villains of all time. So who do you consider to be the most obscure casting choice in a superhero film or even a TV show? Comment below and share some thoughts. And as always, thank you guys for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Take care and have a good one.